good.
I would like to say one thing to that comment, Darren. On Cedar Road there, right before 159th, is two big schools. You have Schilling School that does not set too far back from the road, so widening that to that 4 lanes, it's already hard to turn out of there. So I'm guessing a stoplight would have to go there, a stoplight at Young School then. You've got your firehouse right there. So with 4 lanes, that could be a lot of hardship for the schools right there. So I think that's a big consideration. It's a lot for after-school activities, and so I don't necessarily know that I want to have 4 lanes right there.
I understand your concern. However, this is why it's important to actually go ahead and review the Will County 2030 plan. It actually calls for Cedar Road. It's a county project.
It's going to be 4 lanes.
It's going to be
It's going to be 4 roads anyway, but
whether
yeah.
we object to it or not, it's going to be 4 lanes from Route 6 to Cedar Road, and it's all now at
The Eastern Coalition group of communities has also reached out to 33C, and we're expecting a letter of support from them. So I don't know where they are in that process. We're going to be reaching back out to them, but they really don't want this middle alignment either, because it actually puts them sandwiched between 2 4-lane highways, which they really don't want. So I think it's a little bit lesser of 2 evils in the growth of the area, and or we could end up on Gallagher, but that is one of our truck routes. But
I think your concern is a good one. I live right there. That's the school my kids will be going to. But the widening of Cedar Road is actually one of the few funded projects right now in theory through Will County. So it's going to 4 lanes, and really in the school area, it's pretty much 4 lanes already. My main question though is I thought our discussion had primarily been, I know we've discussed all of these options, but I thought our discussion had primarily been around an interchange with 355 as the termination point.
we have had that.
What happened with that?
That was involved as well. So we did a lot of deliberating and pushing, and we even had to go to IDOT and the federal highways to get permission to potentially use a new interchange. We do have an agreement with the tollway for a new interchange. It's just that no one has any funding for it. It's probably $25–30 million interchange. And there was a lot of deliberation on that. That could be part of this analysis, but it's another $100,000 just to evaluate it. So we pulled that off at this point for fiscal reasons, that we felt the existing roads. The other thing you run into if you add a new interchange, which I would love to have for the community, you run into a kind of a situation where you have a lot of people traveling, and when you look at this big map that I gave you with those 2 red dots, I mean, there was a huge federal study done that says those 2 points need to be connected. And when you start involving toll roads in those, sometimes there's a social inequity that happens, and we wanted to avoid all that let's use existing open roads. Plus, we have trucks that are going to be coming across. If we set that up, they might just bypass the toll and drive on Cedar or Gauger anyway. That wouldn't be improved at that point. So we felt, even though we fought hard to get that right, which we won, we felt that this time it was best to leave it off. But it is a potential possibility if you wanted us to take that back to the group.
One more thing is the 1995 agreement that we have with the tollway. The agreement specifically states that the interchange at Bruce Road, even though I fully support an interchange there, is 100% the cost of the city of Lockport. Okay, so that we would have to bond.
We would need partners, yeah.
$25–30 million, or whatever it would be, with the potential payoff would be the southern portion of Bruce Road, between Gauger and the tollway. That area there that abuts New Lenox is within our plan for commercial development. So it's either. So even though it makes sense that someday Lockport may actually build this, but it's $23 million. It was $23 million in 2004.
Yeah, so it's a lot more today. It's over 30 million. And I think, the state and or the feds would probably get involved at some point with some grants if we ever had that money to look at that 10 years from now. The other interesting thing about the middle alignment that I wanted to get on record is right now the middle alignment, which is that little piece going north-south east of 355, is unassigned. We asked at our last meeting with the county and consultants, whose road will that be? They said it would be undetermined at this point, and they were kind of looking at us. So if we approve, if we stay on this middle alignment, we may be accepting a whole new road with a whole bunch of new liabilities and costs to keep it up to speed and spec, where Cedar and Gauger are both county roads at that point. So we'd love to defer, if this is a county project, keep it on county roads where possible.
The other thing, I mean, this has a lot of impact to the city, right? As we look at like Ridge development, I think my opinion on Ridge changes drastically. A 4-lane highway going behind Victoria Crossing West versus not. But this is the first time I've seen it mapped out, and this, as much as I'm the second closest house in all of Lockport to Cedar Ridge, I could throw a baseball and hit Cedar, right? I don't necessarily want Cedar to be this big trucking highway or anything, but I understand when Darren's saying like, hey, that's his kind of preferred or makes the most sense. But as I look at this, it's kind of a weird route, right? It goes, and this might just be the drawing, but it looks like it almost goes a little bit north off Bruce and then back around, but then it gets really weird around the S-curve, and actually, is this right? It goes east of
It's
Cedar,
quite, if there's
and
a
it comes
web,
back over?
there's a website you can go to, it's cfbstudy.com or something like that, and it has a lot of information. Again, this is a county project that was deliberated for years, and there was every reason for every inch of every turn in this, and I may not agree or understand most of them, but they have their reasons on why it's going where it is. Even the Emerald Dragonfly pushed this original alignment was at Bruce Road, straight
south,
across,
yeah.
and now we have to go down to Oak and then work our way back up, because again, the project terminus points never change. The 2 red dots have to stay where they are. That's how you get federal money, so.
I guess I would just hope that if this was the route they went, and they were doing this widening project from their Will County 2030, they could find a better way to construct this than what I'm viewing here.
The city of
But either way.
Lockport is a member of the TCC committee, which is a committee of about 25 members and communities and government entities that are affected by this. And we are kind of an advisory committee, and what has come out of that is they've all supported the Eastern Coalition. That's what we're calling ourselves as the TCC. They've all supported us as long as we fund the change, so they're all saying, hey, if it doesn't impact us and it's your dollar, go ahead and change it. So we actually finally have the county saying that as well. So now this moment is here after 3 years of work that if you want to change the mill alignment on a Will County project, this is how we do it.
So I guess, long story short, and I could talk about this forever like Darren,
Yeah.
but I hate this because we're funding another study on top of 10 more studies for a project that probably is not going to happen.
A lot of data that's already been
right?
studied,
Or,
yeah.
you know, who knows when it's going to happen.
But it's holding
But I feel like
development
we've got to
lands
do it.
hostage,
Yeah.
yeah.
So as much as I hate it, I'll support the
And what's
further
even
engineering
worse, if you
study.
actually look at the breakdown of the money, look at $100,000, $60,000 goes towards presentations. Only $40,000 actually goes towards the actual engineering. I find that
It's ridiculous. Yeah. But so obviously I've got a lot of questions and concerns, but I'll support the.
This isn't an opportunity that we can hire our own engineers, right, for this study?
No, this is a county project and you have to use Civil Tech, and I don't think you'd want to go outside with another firm because they have all the data. You'd be starting from scratch, and that would be 10 times the cost of what we're being
Well,
offered.
this is all public information, it's public dollars, they'd have all their,
Right.
we'd have access to all that public stuff, just. And again, and the only reason I'm saying is that I'm a fan of that intersection only because, to 355, because we're not ourselves, anybody's coming across that bridge who wants to get to 355 is gonna go north on Gauger.
Yeah.
So it's automatically gonna happen, even though we don't have a portion of it as a truck route.
They use quite a table of deciding factors and determining points as to how it's selected, and it's several pages long, and so they have all their different reasons as to why they would choose such a thing.
And for saving 170 million, I think we can
Well, we
convince
just-
them to put in
we win
the
the argument
23.
by doing that.
But put in 23 for the interchange, and let's be done with it. Even if that, again, if it crosses there, the only thing I like about the Cedar Road, all right, it's Cedar Road, it's getting there, I get the school stuff, but we actually had somebody stand up here from the school, said that they didn't want it. But it crosses 355. So that could be a potential intersection later when we figure that out, again, 10, 15 years, whenever this comes, so.
We could, again, this is for discussion purposes only, but we could entertain the additional Bruce Road interchange and fund that portion ourselves for another $100,000 if you care to try to have that involved. That would have to be decided with original
I-
100,000.
The problem with that here is, the engineering's already been done.
Yeah.
The tollway is already done it, the ramps are already there, and so we're basically, we would, and even if, say 5, 10 years down the road, who's ever sitting up here decides that, okay? But what's gonna stink at that time here is all they're gonna do is pick up that packet, and they're gonna plagiarize every single word into that packet, and then they're gonna present it, and all the procedures are gonna be done, and it's, once again,
And-
that's criminal.
Well,
I'm not an engineer and I can't speak to how deep they'll be getting into this, but there are a lot of environmental impacts and things that they study as well, and when you choose a new route, they have to go.
can you approach Homer Township and Homer Glen about that extra 100,000 as well? And the reason I say that is because.
And New Lenox.
Yeah, but as I look at this, right, that route, primarily, actually, it's all through unincorporated Homer Township. And then where it makes that weird crossover Cedar Ridge and back over, that's actually a big plot of Homer Glen that's for sale right now that they're trying to develop. So they've got a lot of vested interest in doing this right as well. And I would think, to Jim's point, regardless, I know we've got to get to that red dot of termination, but when we're thinking trucks, they're trying to find their way to 355. So all we've done is primarily looped a whole bunch of trucks. And there might be data studies on cars and whatever, but we're going to loop all the trucks past those schools, through the township, through Homer Glen primarily, actually, and then back over west on 159th.
We did deliberate it a little bit with our smaller coalition committee, and the wisdom was to back away from that, but we can certainly re-bring it up. We can also bring it back that the city of Lockport would fund it wholly, or I could find potential other partners while we wait and discuss this and see what their feedback is. We felt like it was a lot to get them to agree to 130,000 with us.
I know this is a really long shot, but has anybody talked to 33C about what it's worth to them to not have trucks blasting through Cedar Road?
We have talked to 33C, but not necessarily about that.
I'm sure they don't want it, but would
Yeah.
they pony 30 grand up for our portion?
I don't think.
I know it's a long shot, but I think it's worth asking them.
But again, I can reach out in this process to a few other governing bodies, whether it's New Lenox or the city or back to our coalition, the schools, whoever may feel a benefit to that future, having that interchange sooner than later.
And it is a benefit, it will be a benefit,
It'll be a
right?
benefit to the whole
You can have a
region.
commercial corridor there, you can do stuff, it was planned for that, so.
It's really, you know, 5, 10 years down the road or whatever it's gonna be as we're sitting here. You know, they will then have the opportunity if we're able to change the route to Cedar Road, which is only the logical route to go, okay, then they can make the decision at that time to go and pass bonds for 35 million or whatever it's gonna be.
I agree.
Okay, but at least it's giving them that option. We can't, at this time, we can't make that decision, but it would make sense at that time that when this is then approved, and then Lockport says, okay, now we're ready to go with that.
Right.
Okay, then what it will then do here is yeah, it's gonna go ahead and get trucks off of Cedar Road, because they're either gonna, because what the trucks will do, if they have to go ahead and get on to 355, they're on Gauger Road, okay? And so then the decision's gonna be is what do we do with Gauger Road? Keep it 2-lane, it's gonna be 4 lanes coming to Bruce Road anyway.
Right.
And so then we go ahead and say, well, we keep it 2-lane, or would we recommend that it go 4-lane? Well, that's 10, 15 years or never.
Right, we don't know what's going on there. I support that, for the record, just saying, let's support this study right here with 130,000 getting into Cedar Road, and let's keep that interchange there, for the record, that we're interested in that too. Just when that time comes, I would still put that in everyone else's ear, that's something they should consider also, because that's,
It won't be just the 3 towns that you had mentioned, Homer Township, Homer Glen, and Lockport, but it'll be New Lenox added on to that?
We can try to reach out to them and
I would call them too.
Somehow a
It's
third,
highly doubtful that New Lenox
Really?
is gonna.
Yeah. We can call, but
There's nothing for them.
That part of Gauger and Bruce is theirs.
They're close.
They've got a development on it.
But it only makes sense, it only makes sense if that portion of land that is north of Route 6 and Silver Cross, now that becomes a viable, development of some kind. So then what New Lenox would get would be a frontage road. Well, there's no reason to go ahead and look at a frontage road right now.
right. Okay.
Okay?
We had enough.
I'm done.
That clock's still
Does
ticking
that
over
mean
there?
it's just going
Broke
to
it,
this
so.
option and not this option?
I think I have enough consensus to tell the coalition that we're on board for a $130,000 commitment, and I will also research that fourth option. If we can get enough support for it, we can bring that back to the IGA, and if there's enough support for it for our council and nowhere else, we can still pay for it ourselves. So I got it.
Got it, okay.
Thank you.
Shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, please. I guess that's me again, yes.
CA2, yes.
Mayor Pro Tem CA2, we have a resolution approving a release of a letter of credit securing the public improvements for Parkside Estates. This is Phase 2. We've had a situation where the developer has pretty much gone out of business. The letter of credit was held by one bank and another bank has acquired them. They have approached us to try to settle the agreement on these improvements that are still required. We're working with them. I've had Brent and his team take a look at these different things, and we feel confident that if we settle this from a $367,000 plus $5,000 letter of credit, that if they give us $238,293, that we can finish the improvements on the list that's also in your packet, along with individual bonding for future sidewalk improvements and trees by parcel at the time of development, which is a common practice that we have now. So we're in agreement with this lowered letter of credit. Basically, they would pay us cash for the amount that we're going to use. Brent and his team will make the infrastructure improvements with those funds, and then anything else remaining will be bonded out by the individual developers when they come in to develop those lands at that time. That makes sense.
Who ends up with this, all these properties then at the end?
Well, it's still owned by the bank, yeah.
Bank on it? No, or the bank's doing
Well, the
the,
bank is trying to,
thought the
First
developer
Midwest is
still
trying to
owned
get
it.
out of Standard Bank's letter of credit, if that makes sense. The developer has, the review builders, they're no longer in business, so I'm not sure at the moment who actually holds title. The bank, I think it's the bank.
find that out, because I mean,
Yeah.
if there's, it becomes a maintenance nightmare, and then it never gets sold, and it sits for a long time,
That's development.
and then we're start doing more maintenance, we're handling all the maintenance, and all that money goes away.
No, well, the maintenance would be, if we did the maintenance on property like that, we would end up leaning the property. We would do it, but we would charge basically code enforcement to make them do it. Whoever the lien holder would be, if it's a bank or another developer buys it on pennies on the dollar or whatever, we expect them to take care of their property. If they don't, we will do it, and then we will charge them, invoice them for the work, and then if they don't pay those invoices, we lien the property. If that happens enough, we end up owning the property, if that makes sense.
Is there any way to find out who actually holds title right now? 'Cause
Yes,
there
we
was-
should know that. I apologize, I should know the answer to that question. I just don't at the moment. But we will have it. This is committee of the whole.
But
We
the
will
bank
bring
may
it.
still own this because it, they
I
lost.
think the bank is looking to get out. I mean, Standard Bank holds a letter of
Yeah.
credit for the
If
developer.
I could add,
Yes,
I
thank you.
believe that it's a holding company that owns the property.
There is a new company that bought it?
Yeah, the
Oh,
holding
holding company.
company. Yeah.
It's a holding company.
So my fear is that we're being nice here, but then we're gonna be holding the bag at the end.
I almost don't understand why we're doing
Standard Bank
this.
has gone out of business, and
Well, they've been
they
acquired
have a
by
letter of credit,
Midwest.
yeah.
Yeah, but so,
So it would be them who'd still be responsible because if
No.
they
no, not
acquire
if we
standard.
release them. Why would we, what is the impetus for releasing them? I understand being nice.
We're taking the cash now. We're
Right,
taking the
but
cash
why?
for the improvements now.
Would
Because-
we be undergoing actual construction, hiring somebody to do these improvements?
Yeah, for this money, yes.
And do we have quotes for this amount of money?
Yeah, well, I don't know if we have direct quotes, but we've been looking at their estimates, and
I mean, we usually, when we've done this in the past, we've gotten, sidewalks are gonna cost X, sewers are gonna cost Y. We've gotten kind of a checklist to get a little more comfortable with the cost.
Right.
But in this case, in my mind, we don't even need estimates, we need quotes, right? If, it might be cheaper or more expensive than this,
oh,
but,
we have those.
They have quotes.
okay, so what do we have?
Yeah, we do have all of that documentation, so we did, when I was presented this, we went through all of, I walked the site personally. We had our water superintendent, a few water individuals, we had our street superintendent, we had our city engineer. We all walked it, and basically what I did was I divvied up the property and said, here's what I want each individual person to look at. So we evaluated the entire site, everything that is in there now, evaluated to make sure that it was still usable, and if it wasn't usable, what would be the cost to make it usable? So if there was a structure that was damaged, you know, how much is that gonna be? So we went through all of that. We went through and we evaluated the existing. Initially, the thought was just to add 3 inches of asphalt to it. My recommendation, that's not gonna be good enough. We're gonna actually mill and beef that up. So the existing pavement that's out there is just not, it's got too much wear and tear already on it. So the thought would be to mill and overlay and then add that additional asphalt. So we've got pricing on that. We also have pricing on streetlights. There are 7 streetlights that were never included, along with all of the electrical lines, conduit. All of that has been added. The main, all of that work is actually more than the original letter of credit estimate for that work. So I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but that work, if back when this letter of credit was generated, it was about 100, let's say 150,000. All of that work today in today's dollars is actually this 238,000. The credit, or what we're letting, I don't want to say letting anybody off the hook of, but what Ben was saying was there was there were parkway trees, and then there was also sidewalk that was included in that initial letter of credit. So those are the 2 things that have been pulled out. That was roughly $250,000 in the initial letter of credit. So that's what we would put on each individual property owner. So from our standpoint, all of the public improvements except for the sidewalk and the parkway would be done with this money.
Okay, so those costs, including milling of the street, and that's good to hear, right? Because
Yeah.
I didn't read that in the memo
Yep,
at all, right? So
correct.
knowing that is good. Do you have, you know, your and your team's estimates, or do you have quotes that we could execute on and get the work done for that price in a month, or, you know, in a reasonable time frame?
Sure. What we did was we took recent bids for recent similar quantities of asphalt, quantities of milling, and we took that and quite honestly, we inflated that a little bit, a couple percent, to get in the ballpark. So I feel like this is, and we had these discussions internally, we feel like this is a very, very good number that this will, you know, more than cover. I don't want to say that we're taking too much, but we're more than covering based on the results of the bid openings that we have received this year within the past couple months.
Okay. Yes, our history,
So no,
this is
so
not
no,
you,
so
but
no, I do not have a specific.
our
quote
history
for
on
it.
these kind of items hasn't been
Sure.
great lately.
Sure.
And then, so I understand, right, we're now saying if a new lot is gonna be built out, they would be responsible for the trees, parkway tree.
At the time of permit, they have to bond.
Why,
We
if
do
we've
that
got
now.
somebody who's on the hook for that now, why would we relinquish that?
Because we're working with the bank to make those improvements now. Once those improvements are done, we accept them, they're ours, so we always like to own the infrastructure, the streetlights, the roads and everything ends up ours. Yes, if the lots are undeveloped, the landowner has to be responsible to maintain them. If they don't maintain them, we do, and then we collect the money back. But this is a relationship with First Midwest Bank and Standard Bank going out. The letter of credit would have to be by First Midwest Bank, and I don't think First Midwest Bank wants to be in that business. They're not, they're not invested here in the project like Standard Bank was at one time. So leaving the bond for sidewalks and the trees has been a standard practice we've done for many of the other ones, even Prime Boulevard and things like that, where Public Works is, where we spent the letter of credit money to make the improvements, and then whatever's left, which is just standard sidewalk and trees, will be bonded when the permits are pulled. So, again, it's been something we've done historically, and we didn't see an issue with working with the bank to settle. Letter of credit is really a promise to do work. We're going to be getting the money to do the work. So for us, what's the difference? Why would we hold them to a letter of credit?
We're still holding the risk, and not all the work from the original letter of
What's our
credit
risk?
will be done.
I don't understand
I
what the
mean,
risk
whatever it is, right? So if that doesn't get built out,
If it goes up over the line of credit, we don't have the money for the letter of
right, but
credit either.
if that doesn't get built out and sidewalk needs repair in 2 years, now that's our problem, right? Or,
I like the way that,
I don't understand, I just
Part
don't understand what we're
of the issue that we would have is if we went in there to do all of the improvements that were initially shown, covered under that letter of credit, we would be short a couple $100,000. And so what this does is we're pulling out that entire sidewalk because it's the, quite honestly, it's the biggest ticket item. It's
Over $200,000.
250,000, something like that. So if we included that, we would not be able to get the things that we really care about as a city, in my opinion. The underground utilities that are already in there, there is a house that's already connected to that sanitary and the roadway and the curb. Get all of those in. If we moved forward without, without removing that sidewalk, I feel like we would be on the hook potentially for sidewalk then that we don't have money for. Because then we could only put in maybe the first, let's say, 10 houses that came in, we'd be putting that sidewalk in. Second, I guess, to your question regarding the sidewalk, that homeowner or that developer, whoever builds that, they will be on the hook for that sidewalk for X amount of maintenance time as well. So just because that goes in, if that gets damaged over that first X amount of years of that maintenance, they would have to repair that. So I don't know if that answers your question at all regarding the sidewalk, but
I like Jason's question about the cost that we're putting it on there, and it's now borne to each individual lot owner. And when you first said it, I was like, now we just increased our home prices and those for no reason. But quite honestly, that builder who was on the hook for the original stuff would have spread that cost, and he would have passed those dollars on to each individual. So me personally, I'm fine with pulling those sidewalks out and everything like that. My fear is like Jason's, where bids come in and for those roads and we're not there and we're short, right? I'd rather say Standard Bank. I used to bank at Standard Bank. I still have Standard Bank checks, and they're still honored by First Midwest. So they still are proper of this. But I'd be fine of doing
Standard
that.
to First Midwest really is irrelevant to us, right? If First Midwest doesn't want to be in this business, that's fine. And
basically, they're holding a note, and they're saying, we don't want to hold a note. And they're saying, would you work with us? What's it going to cost us to buy the note? We're saying, you have to be responsible for all the work that was in the note, and we have to have a future bond for the sidewalks. We don't want them to put the sidewalks in now anyway, because the construction and everything will ruin them and scratch them up anyway. So we'd rather deal with a future developer and a future parcel development at that time. So that's why it's a common practice to pull the trees and sidewalks out. They're saying, we don't want a whole lot of credit. We'll build out what you need. So we're telling them, this is what we need to build this out. We're not really giving them a deal, I guess. Maybe there's a perception that we're giving them a deal. The only deal they're getting out of this is that the future development will pay for the sidewalks and trees, which we don't want in now anyway.
Is there a chance that we can have them do the road and the milling? Like, we tell them what they do and they handle the bids, and if it's over, they're doing it?
I don't know if we want to do that.
Why put that time, our effort, all that stuff, right?
Quality control, but it's going to be our asset. We're going to inspect it and take time on it anyway. But
Right, like anybody else, but it's less staff time, it's not worrying about it, it's just inspections?
the other thing that we could do is we can get the quotes for you before July 19th and to validate the numbers if you want.
one of the things that I heard, and again, I haven't been here all that long, so I'm taking a lot of my information from just talking and asking questions. It does sound like there's a fair amount of residents that use that access. They actually cut through, from phase one, they cut through the phase two out to Gauger Road. And so we do some plowing in there, and so one of the, I guess selfishly, what I would like to see is us get that done and get that paved, because right now, all it's doing is tearing that up. So that base course that's down, it's essentially, it's ruined. If you go out there and you look at it, it's smooth. I mean, it's perfect, which is what you don't want for that base. I mean, there's bigger aggregate in there for a reason. That's all been kind of worn down. There's a centerline crack, if you go out there, that's an inch for the entire length of the project. It's only gonna get worse. And so I guess the way that I look at it is I would like to get that thing buttoned up, get that thing usable for our residents and for the people that do currently use it. And then for us, for maintenance, you know, when it comes to plowing time, we're not hitting that curb, which is, 3 inches up in the air right now. The stormwater, the drainage right now, if you go out and you take a look at it, you can see where that water is sat over the years. And it's just gonna continue to tear up because it can't get into the structure. So selfishly, what I'm looking at is getting this up to a point where it's maintainable for the long term for us. And I think this, again, this cost, I don't wanna say that we overestimated, but I do feel very confident. I can understand the the concerns and some of the challenges that we've had with these in the past. Believe me, I can understand that. I feel like we did our homework. I reached out to several different individuals to make sure that I was covered. I want to make sure I'm covered when I bring something like this to council.
Okay. I only have one other question. to transfer the lots from where it was, the sidewalks and trees were now the developers, and now they're individual homeowners. Is that something we have to do, an annexation agreement, what?
Developers, the future development, we do
He
that.
handles that, we don't have to change anything on our end? Okay.
No.
I'm okay with it.
Any other questions?
So again, this would be an action item on July 19th. If
Right.
you can all call or email me in advance if you want.
Okay.
Or,
Just, I guess, a little clarification on my end. One of the things that Ben mentioned was potentially getting those quotes
oh, yeah.
for the July 19th meeting. I would be more than happy to do that if that's what I'm hearing.
Is that what you-
I'm only one vote, but I would definitely prefer to see that.
Are we planning on doing it this summer? Or or just stretching our dollars and actually bidding it out
My
later?
fear is that we take money, don't do it, and then in 10 years, it's one of these, why the heck are we doing this now kind of
We do
things.
We should plan it right, but
Yeah.
bid it out in a normal bidding period, like November, December, so we can get some good prices. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We could add it to our, this year's resurfacing contract potentially as well, maybe get some better dollars.
yeah, if there's, you've already got a set
Ways
price,
to
that's fine with me too.
leverage. I mean, I appreciate Jim's idea on the bank doing the work, but they're not in that business either, and I'd rather have I'd rather have our people do it, I guess.
So are we saying that bids are going to be collected by June 19th, or are we waiting
Get some
until-
more information,
Okay.
please.
Yeah, we can try to drill down and validate the numbers with some actual quotes and.
Sure.
Because that would make sense if you're gonna agree on this, to know the prices. We're gonna do it, and you wanna do it now anyway, so we might as well get it
We're just
quoted, right?
confirming the prices.
Yeah,
Rent
but
had.
we're not gonna wait 2 years to do the project, right? I mean, that's what you're asking.
Unfortunately, we've done things like that, like taken money and committed to something, and then 10 years later, when there's a whole, in 10 years, if none of us are here, I don't want to counsel 8 people going, why are we spending $700,000 now on doing something, right? So if we're gonna do
We've
it,
been there before, yeah.
So is that what the plan
I
is?
agree.
We're gonna get a
Intention is
quote,
to
we're
do
gonna
it.
do it, and
Because if we don't do it, just like at Prime Boulevard, where things were starting to deteriorate, if we don't do it, it's gonna get worse and it will cost more. So we need to agree to take the money and make the improvements as soon as we
Right.
can.
okay, that's,
Okay, Brent, so if you wouldn't mind getting that,
We'll get actual quotes. I mean, I think their estimates are conservative at best, but we'll be able to validate that before the 19th.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay.
very good. All righty, moving on.
I think that's it, man.
We do
Can I
have,
adjourn?
let's see, we do have here, do we acknowledge the public speakers?
Yes, ma'am. There's a open floor public comments. Do we have some?
Yes. I have here, I apologize, I'm not sure which came first, but is Robert Hanson still here? Oh, okay, oh, so you're Steve Gorski, okay, very good.
Right here, or?
Yes, right there is fine.
Again, thank you for your time tonight. I'm Steve Gorski, this is Bob Hanson, and we're the owners of the Lockport Plaza here, right down the road at 954 East 9th Street. And we're here tonight to discuss a possible tenant for the Plaza anchor. The tenant recently approached Bob and I again. This was approached to the board, I guess, a couple years ago. A little background on the plaza. We purchased the property back in 2009, and you're all from the community, and you probably recognize the condition it was in when we purchased it. I hear you talking about roads and different things in a community that needed improvement. The lights were hung together by electrical cords. The sidewalks were heaving, roofs leaking, and what have you. Matter of fact, a few years ago, Bob, who's mainly the lead on this project, actually won an award from the city for the beautification of the property. With that said, matter of fact, we put over $2 million into the property. But with that said, of the 8 years that we've owned the property, only 11 months have been occupied by an anchor. We've been really struggling there. 3 years ago, Bob approached the board here with a tenant, which was a Salvation Army boutique store. These are stores that are put in nicer areas. There's a lot of these in the West Coast, and they came to the board with actual presentation what the outside and inside would look like. Well, that didn't go very far. Do you guys want to see a photo of what those,
Yes, please.
yes? So this is an example of the outside of the building would look like on the surface.
What year was this?
I think it was 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago, yeah. That sounds about right.
Yeah. This is what the inside of the store looks like. So it's, as you can see, it is their boutique store layout. It's very modern, very put together. We felt it was a great opportunity to put someone in the anchor. Again, since that was denied, what's happened there is in the last 12 months, we've had 7 broken windows. Bob's met with the police department. We've had to install security cameras. To be real honest with you, Bob and I have sunk a lot of money, of our own personal money, to keep the place afloat. And we're just looking to see if it's an opportunity, now that the Salvation Army's actually contacted us again, to reapproach the board to see what their level of interest would be. I would like to add as well that at the time the board said, we'll help you get a tenant. Maybe there's a Michael's, a Hobby Lobby. There's been a lot of efforts on our part, and there's been no takers. So we're just here really kind of pleading with you and seeing what your level of interest are, since that plaza looks the way it does now. And again, if any of you seen it before and what it looks like now, I think you can maybe see it in your hearts to give Bob and I a second opportunity here.
I think this is a good opportunity, and the reason why is because understand, you can't get a Hobby Lobby, and you're not going to get a JCPenney, you're not going to get a Kohl's or anything like that in there because of the economy. Yeah, it is a Salvation Army. It's not a Goodwill. However, judging from the looks of this boutique, maybe the outside would be, the red's not too appealing, but I think it'll bring people into that plaza, and it'll also, save it from deteriorating again.
Right, exactly.
So, I'd like to just add a little bit of background. I think Darren and I were probably the only two here then. Bob did come to us about 3 years ago or so. I spent a lot of time, Bob and I grabbed breakfast even, chatted about it. The presentation then was pretty good. We had some real concerns, and people talked about occasionally people leave mattresses or couches outside, and there were some valid concerns, and at least at the time, I think Bob was willing to address them. And so if this proceeds further, I think we would want to have those conversations as well, make sure we're comfortable. At the time, we did have a retail consultant who recommended pretty strongly against this project, and for a variety of reasons, and most of it was, hey, we're about to start kicking butt on Lockport Square, you don't want this to be what Lockport's known as, we want Lockport Square. I think it's fair to say that Lockport Square still has a lot of promise, but hasn't developed quite the way we thought at the time. And there was a member of the Salvation Army came, gave a good presentation. I was open at the time. I ended up voting against it at the time, but I was pretty open. I think we had pretty good dialogue. I'm personally at least willing to engage in that dialogue again and take a fresh look at this. One thing I do remember from last time, Bob, is I believe the gentleman from the Salvation Army who was here was talking about a couple of their newer, nicer formats that were going to start being built in certain places. And I remember part of my issue was like, if I could go see this, I might get a better feel for it. So I'm assuming they've got a couple of them built now that maybe, we can use as a little more of a reference point than we had at that point as well. And, this is just kind of background. I think that's part of a discussion ongoing, but just to kind of give the newer members of the council.
I just Googled. I've never seen a Salvation Army boutique. Where would the closest one be? I know what a Goodwill looks like.
Yeah,
The boutique stores they started on the West Coast, so there's not many around.
I was going to say, I've never heard of Salvation Boutique Store.
They'll show you a store.
and you got to realize one thing, that the last thing that Bob and I want to do is to put something that hurts our value as well. We wouldn't want to do that. Matter of fact, 2 months ago, Bob was approached by a vaping store, and Bob wouldn't even entertain that. I just found out about that tonight. on a monthly basis, we're sinking money into this place, and we turn down a vape store because we don't want that either. We both have children as well. You know, if it's something you would entertain, I think, you know, any reasonable questions you would have, we could go back to the Salvation Army and come up with some good, you know, answers and dialogue with that. What I think we don't want is that there was a lot of effort put on your part and ours and the Salvation Army. They came in with a plethora of people, and at the end of the day, it was, well, we just don't think it's good for our community. And I would point out that on 159th from Harlem to, I don't know if it's LaGrange or Wolf Road, there's 5 resale shops in Orland Park. The surrounding communities have these. If this is going to be a place where there's mattresses in front, we don't want that either, because our goal is to bring traffic to the plaza, you know. I could tell you that my mom passed away a couple years ago, and I really thought it was going to be easy to donate that furniture. And when they came in, it was all great shape, plastic on the velvet. No one wanted it because they just can't get rid of it either. And I got it at the end of the day. So it went to the dumpster, and away it went. So again, if this is something you entertain, when Bob got approached with the opportunity again from the Salvation Army, our response was, let's come to a meeting and see if it's something open for discussion before we move forward.
Well, I also, yes, Jason and I were the only ones who were on the council at the time. I do believe I voted no at that time. And one of the reasons why I voted no was we currently had at that time about 5 resale shops. Of those 5, I don't think. We have none today. Maybe 1, I think we have 1.
The Lockport Resource Center still.
We have 1, okay, so what happened was, so what happened was the free market determined how many resale shops were gonna be in here. And so they did not go out of business because of Salvation Army, okay? I'd be open to go ahead, and if you go through the proper channels, go through the Community Development Center, Planning Zoning Commission, you know, you've been through it before. I see no reason to go ahead and listen, you know, see what the proposal is. You know, things have changed in 3 years, and I don't remember it being a boutique at that time. But
Never even heard of that.
that was 3 years ago. Over 3 years ago. So, you know, I'd be willing to see. You know, the climate has changed. So let's, you know, I mean, if you're willing to go through the proper protocol. I can't guarantee I'll support it, but I'd be definitely willing to listen to it.
I'm just curious, where do they get their donations from? Just from local residents, or do you bring in stuff for a Salvation Army boutique? I don't know how.
And then to explain that better, I can't explain. I mean, there is a certain amount of the merchandise that's new, though. There's a pretty high percent that's new merchandise.
Well, because I know a Goodwill would have stuff with tags on it from regular retailers still, so I just have never heard the concept Salvation Army boutique.
I know my wife donates new things to Goodwill, and
Yeah.
still with the tags on there.
No, I'm just curious. I mean, that almost looks like from that picture, it looks like it's a cafe inside there too. I mean, it looks fancy from where I'm sitting.
They
as
do them
opposed to
really
a
nice these days. I mean, they
Yeah,
have an
I
image.
don't-
They're a nationwide company, you know.
Well, I know what Salvation Army is, but I've just never heard of boutique. So that's why I tried Googling it.
They do some boutique stores in some nicer communities, is what it is.
Who actually runs the store? Are there people that volunteer for Salvation Army or employees of some sort?
I believe they're, yeah, I
Pardon?
mean,
There's employees.
They are employees?
If I'm not mistaken, when we made the presentation before, there's approximately 15 or 20 paid employees.
Okay, that
Yeah.
are associated with Salvation Army.
And the other thing I remember is they had an estimate of sales they thought they would do there the first year or two was like between $2 and $3 million in sales.
I don't remember all the details, but I do remember kind of their case for local employment, local benefits being fairly compelling. I think they kind of operate, if I remember right, they sort of operate in regions, and I think some of this region is based out of like maybe Northwest Indiana or something, but I think if, you know, everybody makes up their own decision, but if we're willing to talk about it and think about it, they did present a fairly compelling case.
they're very professional, organized people that came in.
Quick question, does Salvation Army come to your house and pick up? Do we know that? Because I have a lot of neighbors that will ask me that
Go to
question.
Catherine Paretta's house.
Because,
Or tenant
because
question.
I can be in support of that, because there's a lot of neighbors. Well, no, the reason I ask that is there's a lot of neighbors who they just want services to come pick up. They don't care where their stuff goes, so.
Getting too deep in the weeds.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but
I
I'm
can-
more for not putting stuff in the garbage. And so if people are lazy, I would rather have the stuff be
Well, this, I don't know.
not
this isn't-
recycled versus tossed out. So I'm in favor of something where it's recycled. I understand that,
Well,
Darren.
point of order, if I can kind of, this isn't the forum for this at the moment. I mean, if I think what Bob is asking, if I'm hearing, is that he plans to refile. It's been more than 1 year, Pam. They filed and were denied. It's been several years. Sounds like they're willing to file again. There's a process and procedure with that, just like we do with every other business, and there's an expense with that. So I think what I'm hearing here is that they're kind of asking your feedback in regards to whether they should go through all that again or not.
I think the proper channels, if I may, because through Pam, who's our community development, mayor's our economic development, we do have some board members that are missing tonight too, so to sit there and say,
Yeah, no, we know that, yeah.
So I would contact them, and maybe within a week, they can give you a better idea of, the feel of everybody else and moving forward, and so you can do your process. As flat out, obviously, it's your right to submit whenever you want to submit, right? It's your right, so, but I understand the question, right? You're spending money doing this and drawings and stuff, so.
Right.
I'd rather get you a little bit more definitive answer.
I would just like to know just a little bit more in depth, why it was denied the first time.
Well, I'm trying to recollect some of that too. There were pros and cons at the time. I don't remember all the details. There was fears of the resale shop. The pros were there's sales tax dollars involved. There's better tenants than being vacancies. Yes, I guess, yes. There's video that I can try to find and pull and send you if they're going to resubmit. That's up, like you said, that's up to them. And
Okay.
I think they know the process, I guess.
Approved by the planning commission too. So we were approved, went to this level, and
So I guess, I don't remember, but I guess if it was approved by
I
planning.
would say
and
be in
denied by
contact with
council.
Pam here.
Yeah, that's where we start.
I think it seems like we're pretty open to
Sure.
listen again and, and move from
Absolutely.
there.
All right, good.
but one more thing, that in us trying to feel this out, and we feel where your temperature is on this, if there was interest in it, I would need some kind of, before they would come back even, I need some kind of letter basically saying that you entertained it. I mean, not saying, obviously not saying you approved it, but some kind of letter saying that you entertained it.
So here's the thing, due to the fact that the mayor is not here at this time, I'd like for him to review this conversation and talk with Ben, and that way he perhaps can let you know of that,
Well, maybe we,
And I get it, you want to have some kind of,
But I'm gonna be frank with you,
Yeah.
I don't think the mayor cares for it still. Okay, I don't know if he's changed his mind, but in the past, it's not. I mean, I'm just being honest.
well, things have changed, we don't know what he's thinking now, but let's make sure that he's, he's aware of your intentions to come back.
I actually
Right.
unaware that he wasn't gonna be here tonight, but.
Right, of course, no, I get it. I just, want to make sure that the mayor is fully, understands the situation, that you want to
Yeah.
come back. And, let's see what
Right.
his, his thought is. Obviously, it has to be okayed by him, and then, of course, the council will then, move forward on, whatever is agreed, okay? But we'll try to get back to
And
you.
we're just trying to also let you know that we've tried over 3 years.
Yeah.
Hobby Lobby, Michael's, they're not coming here. I mean, it's just not in that location. It's not in a spot for them.
If I may,
idea.
Mayor Pro Tem, we want to make sure that we don't start deliberating on something that's not before the city.
Agenda, yeah.
Before the city council, so.
Okay.
I think the forum is, we'll set up a meeting with Bob and his interests with Pam and I and the mayor, and as our normal, like a pre-application meeting, and talk about the past and the future, and
Sounds good.
All right, thank you.
bring it to you.
You're welcome, thank you. All righty.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Should we make a motion?
Mayor Pro Tem.
Oops, oh, I'm sorry.
Did we have any new business? We skipped over a new business
Oh.
section.
Okay, sorry about that. New business, anyone?
So maybe,
That's going for the meeting of the whole, or
City council.
for the next meeting, okay.
so just
All righty.
probably a motion. to
Make a
adjourn.
motion
To
So
adjourn?
moved.
Second.
Then
Jim and Catherine, okay.
maybe a 2-minute break while Kathy sets things up.
Give-
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
okay, just a few minutes, let us know, Kathy, when you're ready, okay?
Okay.
Are you enjoying this too much?
Yes, I am.
She's
I
using the
like
gavel
this.
more than the
Hey, I
mayor.
want you to know your husband used it quite a bit.
It's not my style.
All righty, we ready, you guys?
Everybody left?
Come on, Ben. Let's get
They
started.
don't want to even hang out with us anymore.
Are you ready? Is everybody here? We are all here. Okay? Okay, let's call this meeting to order here. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Renee Saban is absent. Jim Petrakos.
Present?
Christina Bergbauer.
Here.
J.R. Galogly is absent. Jason Vandermeer.
Here.
Darren Deskin. Joanne Bartleson is interim mayor, and Catherine Peretta.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay. All righty. Let's see here. Should we go down, Ben, to the consent agenda right away? Okay.
Yes, we need a motion
All
for
right,
consent agenda.
in reference to the consent agenda, looking for a motion to approve June 7, 2017, regular city meeting, city council meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Jason and Christine. Motion to approve the June 7, 2017 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. Looking for a motion?
You just did.
Oh.
You could read them all.
I'm
You gotta
sorry.
read 'em up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
one motion
okay.
and then you read them all.
Right. Okay, sorry about that. Motion to approve payroll period ending June 4th, 2017 as presented, and various bills, the motion to approve the various bills as presented, and motion to replace vehicle number 705.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Ready? Darren and Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think we got to do
I
roll
believe
call
there's
for
a roll call.
Roll call, sorry.
Renee Saban is absent. Jim Petrakos.
Yes.
Christina Bergbauer.
Yes.
J.R. Galugly is absent. Jason Vandermeer.
Yes.
Darren Deskin. Catherine Peretta.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right. Okay.
Just say you vote yes.
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Just to be on record, I vote yes. Do I not?
Yeah, as a mayor pro tem, you do not vote.
Okay, well, there you go.
Powers been stripped.
All righty then.
How about that, Darren?
She can vote yes and with
Well, that's true, yeah. Just want to go on record.
seats.
Yes,
Duly noted.
yeah. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes? We
We're in
already did
consent,
that?
yeah.
Approval-
CA1.
Okay, let's skip over here.
CA1.
This is just a staff report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. CA1 is the first item on your agenda. We'll be seeking a motion to enter into a contract with Featherstone for construction management services at a cost of 3.5%. This is estimated at about $53,000 with about $19,000 in additional fees for coordination. And the project cost is slated to not exceed $1,595,525. This is a, well, I guess we need to have a motion to discuss it, I guess.
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Okay,
You
Darren
seconded.
and Jim?
Petrakos.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Members of the council, this is a streetscape plan. The IDOT portion, that is the road improvements, will hopefully be done with the budget impasse pending. This would be an additional contract above and beyond and separate than the IDOT contracts for the improvements in the downtown. The streetscape improvements will be from the 8th to 11th Street on State. The city would like to have a hired third-party contractor be the city's representative on the project improvements. We've had internal meetings with the Public Works and myself and Featherstone and V3 and Tesca about coordinating this large project. And Featherstone has been doing several projects like this at the state level, and they've also were the ones that recently completed the oversight on the public landing project, which turned out very well. And so we are seeking approval to move forward with this contract with Featherstone. There's been a few questions about the A1A contract that we are,
AIA.
excuse me, AIA, thank you. And our attorney, Sonny, and I and Jim have been working on that. A few minor text amendments with that, and so I was seeking approval to move forward as long as the attorney, Jim and I, were satisfied with the minor changes in that agreement. We can also, if you're not comfortable with that, we can work on that for a month and bring it back on July 19th. It's up to you.
What do you want to do, Jim?
There were a lot of questions for it, so I mean, either one of these things are going to be tentative, we're going to be working through them, so. I know Jason had some questions about it too. Just some verbiage in the contract and actually what Featherstone's role actually was there. So I know you guys have met and everything. I want to make sure that what you guys have discussed and what's in the contract is the same thing with construction manager versus engineer, what are we doing, and all, and so forth, and what avenue did we actually hire him under? So, I quite honestly do either. It's
I
there.
would prefer to table it, find out the information, wait a little bit, see what the state's doing too. Just waiting till July is over with the budget. That would be my preference.
You don't,
We're
you
no-
don't have to
we're in no
table it.
hurry.
Yeah, I mean, we can just bring it back, or we can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, just not today to vote.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Sonny, this is specifically for you. One of the things that I had an issue with last time is that we didn't go out and get quotes, and I'm never really sure when we should and when we shouldn't, and we're only looking for qualifications. So in your opinion, is it appropriate or frankly legal for us to go get other financial quotes for this, or is this based on qualifications only?
It's based upon qualification. There's a statute regarding procurement on engineering services and architectural services. But the changes are pretty minor that Ben and I are working on. It doesn't change the substance of the project, but if the city council feels more comfortable in deferring this until the next city council meeting with the changes, then the motion can be made and
Let's do that. Is it preferred to just table it?
motion to defer to a date at the next city council meeting.
I'll make the motion.
So July 19th?
I'd like to make a motion to defer to July 19th.
Second?
Okay. Everyone okay with that?
I think we have to do a roll call.
Roll call?
Should we vote, Kim?
For a motion to defer, you could do a regular voice vote.
All in favor?
Say it again. Say it again, Sonny.
Motion to defer, motion to continue can be done by voice vote, so just all in favor and
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll work with staff and
Okay. Okay, it's for, okay,
That's
July
fine.
19th, okay.
CA2 is the Common Street plans and the Hamilton alleyway fixes. We're seeking a motion to amend the contract with Austin Tyler to complete the additional reconstruction of the full Hamilton alley with cement for an additional construction cost estimated at $125,010. And we want to commence with the rest of the Common Street construction this summer now that open out days has ended. Both projects for 2017 improvement completion will be $484,606.
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Was that Christina, second?
Christina, yes.
It's not my voice. Only two of us over here.
Very similar.
That's
All in favor?
Hold on.
No?
Apologize, we're going to talk about it a little bit here.
Okay, sorry.
I think my mic was off, so I apologize for that. So we've had a couple different conversations with some of you and Christina and JR, and what we've done is we've added some alternates to those bids so that we can talk about the ADA plates and things like that. So I felt like I had to answer most of everyone's questions, and I'm certainly open to take any other additional ones. But again, this will be completing the public right-of-way, the easement area only, not the private property, and connecting 9th and 10th with cement alleyway, basically.
Concrete.
Excuse me, concrete.
Thank you.
Jim, you weren't here last time. My big thing is like we're paying 25% more money for a project that looks worse, right? And I kind of kept asking if there was any way to engineer, even if it requires more retention or drainage or whatever it might be, to look the same way it looks now. If we spend $120,000 on drainage and have it look the way it looks now, is better than $120,000 on cement in my mind. This is up your alley. I'm curious your opinion on the project.
The main project that we had, I remember, right, it was the entire parking lot. We had all this engineering and all that stuff. That would have solved a ton of things. This was, unfortunately, the quick Band-Aid saying, let's put some stone in there. We're trying to put pavers in where we wanted to put this to up the level of design and so forth, aesthetics. The paver choice, just because of the drainage and getting the drainage swale, those pavers are a little bit too big to actually fit the curve, that you're there. So I get that, that's there. The engineers putting in time, everyone's putting in their time to rectify this and go back into concrete. I haven't dug into the drawings of what the concrete would turn like. I'm assuming like a nice broom finish, California window pane style, something that would look real sharp. The only real up to any of this stuff would get into cobblestone, the older world look. But if we're doing the entire parking lot later, and we're gonna eventually have to do the parking lot and do all that stuff, concrete's probably our best.
This isn't the parking lot, right? This is just the alley.
This is the
It wouldn't
alley.
be the same part of a project of a
Right.
parking lot.
Well, if we do the parking lot, we're affecting this. We might not
Really, it's
understand it.
sectioned off, it's lower and off, right?
The topography changes. The alleyway is closest to the buildings, between those. That was the only part that we were gonna do, but connects the two streets.
But in our original design, right, the whole Hamilton Street parking lot,
Yeah.
we were taking out that whole, we were going all the way to
We're
that.
gonna
We're doing the
assimilate,
whole thing, but we're not, right?
Right,
not at this time, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, we only spent $125,000 instead of $1.5 million, so.
right.
Right.
So you look at it as like, what's the quality of what we're putting back in versus if we do touch it, we're only ripping out concrete. We can make the concrete look better. Unfortunately, that entire alley, there's no good way to get water in and out of there, right? And with the whatchamacallit, we had to add that drainage or else it's just gonna be stagnant on there.
Yeah, a big part of this cost too is the additional drain boxes in the center of that alleyway, and then we have the ones on the outside that will lead to the 9th and 10th storm sewers, so there's plenty of capacity there. We had deliberated doing just asphalt. You could save about $10,000, and we thought cement would look better, or concrete, pardon me. And then we had talked about, cobblestones or additional bricks or smaller bricks, and I just didn't feel comfortable in deliberating, just how do we trust it, that we know that we can trust concrete and that that's going to be holding up well. What we didn't realize was we had planned for waste services to those buildings back there, but we didn't realize is every building has service, and so instead of 1 truck a week, there's like 7 trucks a week, and so it gets a lot more activity than we had originally anticipated. So we just felt concrete was the best option, and again, you're only really looking at it from the streets at 9th and 10th as you look through or walk through, but at least it will be more pedestrian friendly. It's gonna drain well. You're not gonna have, you saw the pictures. I mean, it was awful.
Jason, don't get me wrong, I hate that we're ripping out anything.
Well, we agreed on a project that I thought wasn't ideal, but was okay and looked okay. That didn't work. Now we're gonna pay more money for a project that looks worse, right?
Well,
That's
the
that's
alternative is we leave it the way it is, and then it's
Yeah,
all,
you don't wanna do that.
could be all tore up with it.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
Prettier by stamping it, but that's another $45,000. I mean, you could use cobblestone, and that's another $100,000. And I think at this point, we're just trying to get something that's functional and that will be appealing. It may not be as beautiful as everyone thinks, but I think it'll look really nice.
I've been assured this won't happen again, right?
I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
Guess the one other quick one is that we will still have the block. I mean, not that it's going to be reused there, but we will still have the actual material that we paid a cost for, that we can use. We're gonna have a decent amount of it that we can use in, in other ways in the downtown area potentially or around there. So it's not like we're just, I guess, picking that up and taking it to the dump for any consolation that is.
Okay.
So I'm welcome for a vote to proceed. Motion to approve.
Someone want to make a motion?
We did.
Oh, you-
We've
Except for
already made
vote.
the motion.
Okay.
Call the vote.
You have to ask for a roll call.
Kathy, could you do a roll call, please?
Okay, Saban is absent. Jim Petrakos?
Yes.
Christina Berg-Bauer?
Yes.
Galogly is absent. Vandermeer?
Yes.
Aaron Duskin?
Yes.
Catherine Preda?
Yes.
Bartleson is Mayor Pro Tem, no vote. Vote passes. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Next.
Mayor and members of council, I think AT1 is the next item. This is a dedication of right-of-way. We had mentioned before that the Pantsuit company is working with us for dedication of a public sidewalk on 163rd Street. Council did previously approve a cost-sharing agreement. The Pantsuit has agreed to dedicate the appropriate right-of-way. We have provided a plat and dedication of the land. We're looking for a motion to approve this and finalize the agreement with the resolution accepting the dedication of the 163rd Street right-of-way from Pantsuit.
Yeah. And Mayor Pro Tem, if I may add that the City Council already previously approved the cost sharing of the sidewalk improvement with Pantsuit back on June 7th, when at the meeting in which the city council approved my appointment, so I wanted to get that in there.
So I'll make the motion.
A second?
Okay, roll call, right? Roll call? Okay.
Okay, Jim Petrakos,
Yes.
Christina Berg-Bauer,
Yes.
Globally is absent, Vandermeer,
Yes.
Aaron Deskin, and Catherine Preda.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, Director of Committee?
Yes, thank you. This item was previously scheduled for final action back on May 3rd. However, due to some public comments, two from business owners who use the existing window lighting, as well as a property owner, were present to provide some comments. Prior to the meeting, the Lockport Chamber was contacted by this property owner with concerns on how notice was given with respect to this possible change. In response, the Chamber Board President and Executive Director attended the meeting. They are also here this evening. Final action was subsequently tabled so that the Chamber could complete some research on the matter, such as talking to businesses, looking at other communities' codes. On June 1st, city officials, myself, Ben, Jim Petrakos, and Joanne met with the board president and executive director to discuss their findings and provide clarification on the proposed amendments, as well as explain other signage options that are available to businesses as they're found in our sign code. It was determined after extensive discussion that the proposed amendment to prohibit perimeter or border window lighting should proceed as presented. Again, the chamber is here this evening. Also, as further noted in the attached ordinance, should this be approved, staff will notify all property owners that currently have the lighting that they have 30 days to come into compliance. I will also work with the chamber with their list to just notify the businesses they have that this type of lighting is not allowed. And then we will figure out who we may have missed, and we'll figure out some strategy to advise them as well. So with that being said, staff is asking for a motion to approve ordinance number 17-013, which would be an ordinance amending chapter 155 of signs as it pertains to prohibited signs, in particular perimeter or border window lighting, as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Real quick discussion.
Yes,
Mayor.
I'd like to give an opportunity to the President of Chambers, Ron, if you'd like to speak on that behalf. Do you have any thoughts? Lisa or anyone? Then we can discuss it after we hear.
Hi, I'm Ron Liv, President, Lockport Chamber of Commerce. Lisa Karras is Executive Director. Really, Pam presented it as we decided that if it went forward in any other way, it would create administrative nightmare to enforce. But the difficult thing about it is Lockport really is one of the first communities we could find to really address this. Joliet is just now addressing this. Yeah, so there really isn't much precedent to go by in other communities. We're the cutting edge.
We are leaders. Right.
We all agreed that the LED lighting in the windows where it's used is annoying. It is not attractive. It was decided that, to specify just that lighting, and saying say all lighting in windows, otherwise it would be too difficult to enforce. That's the hard part of being on one of the first and not being able to go, okay, well, they're doing it this way. Now Joliet's going to be able to look at Lockport. Oh, well, that's how they're doing it. So, this is really a very new technology, and the businesses that have that, they want that. They're not going. They want to be able to use that because they see it as an attraction, they see it as safety, they see it, you know, and I just think it's a very small matter, but it means a lot to those who it means something to. So, like I said, I think Pam said it as we just said. We worked on it. Lisa worked very hard looking through the ordinances. We went through, and like I said, it's mainly in the other communities, it's sign ordinances. And yes, this is amending a sign ordinance, but it's really about perimeter window lighting. And nobody really it's not talked about at this time in other communities. So, any questions from any of you?
I have a question. Did you guys ever discuss lumens, the amount of brightness as to?
We did.
And how did that come out? And I don't understand why that wasn't even used.
Do you want to, yeah, I was going to say, Jim.
I can answer that for you. So to actually test lumens, it's actually a light reader that you hold in your hand. You can't be in a dark room and surround your window and say how much light's actually coming from a certain light source or not. So if you're downtown or on a street, you could be getting light sources from everywhere and not knowing, and getting inaccurate readings of who's got what. Some of them are on dimmers, so they can dim it down while you check it and then increase it as soon as you leave. But then who's going to enforce this? Who's going to check around? And it's all about the time and effort for everyone to get in. You know, Tom Fulton would be walking around with a light meter and so forth and saying who did what and who put what tape. We had discussions about LED versus incandescent lights, right? Christmas lights, seeing how those are there. A lot of the incandescents are now turning to LED, and then just enforcing that. So, and it's again, being one of the first communities there, you know, I wanted to say, you know, I applaud Pam for putting this together and for the chamber coming in and double checking that, right? And you guys not only just brought forth complaints, right, or questions about it, but you actually did your homework, and I really appreciate that. I say that all the time, you know, you always come with, you know, not only just the question about something, but a resolution or some type of fix for it. And you guys did that, and we talked it through, and we went through the whole gamut of signs that were attached, signs that weren't attached to the lights. There's just such a plethora of stuff, and unfortunately with that, like any of these ordinances, somebody's trying to just edge out another competition or the next neighbor and so forth. And the one thing that was just always resounding is like, just imagine if everybody did the same thing. Everyone caught up and had the same light and same everything. Because of that discussion, now everywhere I go, I see LED lights and the tape lights. It's like, oh, there's another one, you know. I just saw it in Homer. I'm like, oh, they got it too. So, and I did just see that Joliet and Joliet's got a lot of them. Joliet's just looking at and passing that now.
That's one of the first other communities that I've seen actually addressing it, and you know, it's like I said, it seems insignificant, but it does detract. It's unfortunate there's not a way to, you know, say, okay, well, these, not these, but again, you know, the administration of it is what you said would be almost impossible.
For example, we've got a T-Mobile store that all the interior lights are bright pink. So that just glows out of the window. So enforcing that, like what light's coming out of a window, it's bright or not bright. I mean, so trying to draw the line saying what's interior, what's not, what's facing exterior, and so forth. And the one thing that keeps popping in my mind about our discussion was informing businesses, right? That logistic nightmare of informing businesses and citizens, bless you, and then trying to say, I received a certified mail back from this person, but not that person, and tracking that. You know, for those that are listening out there and for the chamber, we really discussed it. It's part of you being a business owner in town or a citizen. You have to pay attention to the rules and regulations and the new ordinances that are out there. I admit it, before I became on the council, I didn't pay attention to a lot of this stuff. I mean, like, wait, what happened? Who changed what? Like, when did that happen? So it's part of that. It's like somebody not applying for a permit for a pool and didn't know when they come in and talk to Pam and say, oops, sorry, I already put in a pool. Well, now you got to move it because you're not per code. So
Can you have then an LED open sign?
that is just under signage, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the only lighting being addressed under this amendment is the perimeter border window lighting. We had that discussion too when we were all meeting of what other lighting or whatever signage it affected. And we do have to look at our sign ordinance at some time, but right now, yes, those types of lights, the sign lights like that are allowed. This does not affect that.
So the discussion with that is you may have an open sign, somebody may have a beer sign that's
Right.
glowing really, bright, and filling up all their windows with all that. So that's another detractant, so
But is that okay?
you're fine. Signage, the open sign.
I just think that you have to have some kind of, if you have a business, you have to have something to let people know that you're there.
Yeah. This is just specifically talking about a lot of the window border perimeter sign, lighting. Either LED, Christmas lights, incandescent, so forth. If you're outlining all your windows on 2, 3, or 4 sides, then that's shining out. That we're just trying to level the playing field so, our town doesn't become Christmas shopping all the way around.
And really, we can't stress enough for people to just check with the city before doing something permanently that is going to cost them money then now to remove it. Just call the city, ask for the, the correct department, and they can answer that question for you.
Well, I think one of the attractive things about those lights is I don't think they are extremely expensive from what I've
Not
investigated.
anymore, yeah. Menards, Home Depot sells them. You can get them a lot of places.
And there, it's the installation, I think, is not, it's a pretty much do-it-yourself. I don't think you have to have an electrician to, so I think that, if we're gonna do it this way, doing it now before everybody starts doing it and they go, well, you should have said something, maybe is the best way, but,
It levels the playing field for everyone.
It comes down to the enforcement.
I would just like to say, I like Christmas lights around the perimeter in December on our windows. I enjoy going down Michigan Avenue looking at lights.
See, I agree with you.
So I have a hard time with this as written. So I cannot vote for this when you say no Christmas lights. Sorry.
This is all year round. This has nothing to do with Christmas season.
It says no string lights. It's all in there.
It
It says
doesn't
it.
exclude those. You can add that language in there.
We had a holiday.
It says, I mean,
It
I've read
doesn't,
it where it says.
within it, it doesn't specify it,
Holidays or anything, it doesn't specify.
holidays or anything.
It says you can't have them, is how I read what I'm voting on.
Covered that.
Which
So
is
I'm not okay
kind of
voting for
grinchy, don't you think?
Huh?
I mean, it's kind of grinchy.
Yeah.
That was
I
not
have a
the
problem with
intent,
that.
trust me. Holiday light, that was not the intent of that.
So that's what it says. It says perimeter or border window lighting, any form of lighting installed either internally or externally around the partial or full perimeter or border of a window to attract attention with illumination. This can include, but is not limited to, LED strip lighting, rope lighting, neon, or string lights. And so string lights is Christmas lights.
It is, but I will say, from my understanding, our intent was all year round, right? It's like the neighbor who has the Christmas lights on the ridge of the roof all year round. This is for businesses with the perimeter lighting all year round. I would be open for like holiday season.
Well, if we're gonna add, if we're gonna do an exclusion period, then we need to define the dates.
Right.
Because, I believe somebody, I think it's Joliet, I think in that article, there was some discussion about the holiday lights. And I thought they were thinking about doing like an exclusionary period between maybe like October 1st through like December 31st or something like that, because some people also like to decorate their windows for Halloween.
I have a suggestion. If you want to have an exclusionary season for rope lighting only, which would be Christmas lights, you could do something from, Thanksgiving to January 5th. I mean, it has to be something that we can determine.
You want to wait for a month, go ahead and vote on this?
Yes. Can we see what Joliet does? Let them figure it out.
Well, they're going,
No.
We don't, yeah. I don't know that we want to go with their.
Romeoville eliminated them out of their lighting ordinance.
Well, Romeoville's already eliminated, Romeoville's already done this. They just did this. So, I mean,
They eliminated them
there's
completely.
precedents out there. I mean, not a lot of
Do they have exclusions though for holidays? No.
No, they handled it through their lighting ordinance and just eliminated them, that one.
So, I mean, it's entirely up to you.
But Joliet's going into a moratorium period for 120 days, which means there shouldn't be any more new lights while staff evaluates, but I believe the existing lights can remain for that 120-day period while they do their research.
Why don't we just wait a month and put in language, I would prefer the day after Thanksgiving through January 2nd.
Let's be a lot clearer with this, please, if we can. So whatever holiday it is, right, if somebody's actually putting up lights, and I apologize for not catching this earlier, and it's a good point. So if it's 15, 30 days before a holiday, and then like a week after, like you got a week to take them down after a certain holiday. So if somebody wants to put up lights for Cinco de Mayo, it's X amount of
That's what I was
time.
gonna say, how do you
Where
pick
do
which,
you end?
pick
And
which
so-
holidays,
Why
because
we
you've got
go into
Kwanzaa,
these
you've got
exclusionary things?
This
Hanukkah,
is
you've
why
got-
it goes back to, now we gotta enforce
We're
that.
gonna have the discussion of including all the holidays, and we're just gonna go ahead and defer.
Just leave it.
Until we have two other people here, so then it'll get approved in a month. So that's it. So I make the motion that we defer this until the meeting in July, what's that date? July 19th?
How you find the difficulty of doing all this stuff?
And are we?
You need a second.
I second the motion.
Jason second.
Yeah, I would like to see what your options are. I mean, I don't want it to say no lights.
It's the hardest,
I mean, 'cause-
easiest thing that we're doing.
Well,
And again, I
Wait,
guess,
we get the
you
roll
know,
call?
any holiday we would exclude, or we
Wait a
could
minute.
We're not allowed
potentially
to
offend
debate.
someone.
Discussion. It's a roll call vote.
Voice vote.
Let's go roll call.
Is it roll call then?
No, I've actually motioned to defer is just a regular voice call,
Okay.
voice vote.
Make a motion to.
There was a motion and
Okay, you
second.
seconded already.
Just say
All in favor?
Aye.
I am fine with it.
Okay, so Darren and Jason, okay.
Not now, maybe after the meeting.
On July 19th, you can.
Thank you. Well,
I
let's talk.
think, you know, if I may suggest, I think the ordinance could be crafted where it's the purpose to attract business or something very narrow, so we aren't concerned with a homeowner or residents. And we do want to stay away from making it holiday specific. It could be a season, it could be winter or particular month. Then we don't get into the problem of favoring one type of holiday or unrecognized holiday. I mean, you have administrative, you know, assistance day, and they may consider that to be a holiday. So we'll come back with more of a fine-tune, you know, very narrow
Love it.
restriction.
Great.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, good idea.
Sorry I didn't catch you.
Okay, so should we discuss that a little bit further, probably on the July 19th meeting?
We'll come back with the options, yeah. Yeah, we'll come back, you know, on July 19th, present the amended, yeah.
Yes, it's over.
It's over, okay.
Next item.
It's over.
Yes,
All
the
right.
next item is case number PZC, case number 2017-002. This is a special use permit for a unique use for a contractor shop with outdoor storage. This item was presented to the Committee of the Whole on June 7th. Staff provided an overview of the requested action and the Plan Commission discussion. The Commission did recommend approval of the requested action subject to conditions which were presented also that evening. At the Plan Commission meeting, the applicant had agreed to all conditions. The only issue that staff needed some direction on pertained to the paving of the storage lot. The existing lot is in poor condition. City code required that it be paved. Staff's initial recommendation and the Plan Commission's modified recommendation included paving the lot subject to certain conditions. The Committee of the Whole discussed the situation based on a memo that was presented by our Director of Public Works. There was some discussion about the existing neighborhood in general and the fact that it lacks stormwater detention and storm sewer. Therefore, it was recommended that the paving of the lot should be predicated on any future city improvements for adequate storm sewer discharge. This would ensure that no additional stormwater would be generated until adequate off-site improvements are implemented. As a result of that discussion, a condition number 9 has been added to the ordinance that's attached that identifies a specific time period from the completion of any city-initiated off-site stormwater infrastructure improvements that the property owner would be subject to providing for adequate discharge and paving the lot. In addition, another concern was raised about the on-site landscaping. There was discussion on its impact of installing landscaped areas to meet code and the potential for increasing flooding on site. The conditions that were outlined in staff's memo did not require additional landscaped areas be provided in compliance with code. It only sought that the existing landscaped areas, which was a buffer area and the foundation area where there are existing plants, that the ones that are dead or missing be reinstalled and that the proper mulching be added. Those conditions are still in there. Again, we were not asking for any additional landscaping, just the stuff that was existing. With that being said, we are seeking a motion to approve ordinance number 17-018, which would approve the special use permit for a unique use contractor shop with outdoor storage, subject to certain conditions as outlined.
Are you looking for a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Jason and Jim? Any discussion? Anyone has questions, concerns? Okay, all in, roll call.
Jim Petrakos?
Yes.
Christina Bergbauer? Jason Vandermeer?
Yes.
Aaron Deskin?
Yes.
And Catherine Preda?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay. Any new business? Guess not.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Jim and Darren. Okay.
Little rate. All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.